the first thing you need to do is to go to the client section. And then the next step would be to search to see if the client has been added before. So we can see that there's already a few clients that have been added. So I probably don't need to search in this case if I'm, say, wanting to add a client named Jim, but you could do that by, say, going like this and clicking go. Since that client hasn't been added, I'm going to go ahead and add them. But basically, if, for example, they did exist, if I was going with the intention of adding Pam Beasley, I can see she's been added. I wouldn't need to add her again. To add a client via direct entry, I'm just going to click this Create Client button, and then it's a case of filling in the fields, particularly those that have an asterisk, as those are the ones that are mandatory. Date of birth is not mandatory, just year of birth, but if you have it, it's recommended. Just making up a date of birth for the purpose of this exercise. Email and mobile is there more for future development in case we ever reach the capability to email or text out survey links. So it's not compulsory to provide at the moment, as we haven't sort of released that functionality. But it's just sort of there for future development. Next, we've got residential address. So again, postcode's the only mandatory field, but if you do have the full address and consent to share it, if you search in here, correct option. The only other point to say is that if you didn't have the client's postcode data available, ultimately you could enter *0, and that's kind of a way to flag that the postcode is ultimately unknown. Finally, we have demographics. None of those are mandatory at the point of client entry, but if you have that information, it is recommended. Just select from the drop-down menu. If you haven't had an opportunity to collect that data and the client, for example, is already disengaged, or there's just not going to be a capability to provide it, you could, for example, choose not stated or inadequately described. That's a way to show that, yes, you made an effort to collect it, but you don't have it. You can also come back to this client profile later and edit it if you do learn that information. But basically, it's better than leaving it blank. So now that I've added all that information, I just need to click that Create button. And now that client has been added, but they're in inactive status. And that means that we can't go to the next step, which is to assess the client until the client has been activated or made so that the status is active. So to do that, I just click that green Activate button. And now Jim is activated and he's ready for the next step, which is to create an assessment.